need a new nuclear power station at Hinkley Point, and when will it be built? We were hoping to speak to somebody from the Department for Energy and Climate Change, but nobody was available. Malcolm Grimston is a nuclear specialist at Imperial College London Centre for Energy Policy and Technology, and Tom Burke is chairman of the environmental think tank E3G and has advised the UK government on environmental policy. So do you think that the building of the new nuclear point at Hinkley B, Malcolm Grimston, would that be a way of, in quotes, keeping the lights on?
Well, yes. I mean, despite the extension of the lifetime of the nuclear stations today, there is something of a cliff edge in the middle of the 2020s when 4, if not 5, of the existing 8 nuclear power stations will be coming offline. If we want to replace those with nuclear, and that's an if, but we really do have to be looking at starting construction pretty much now, if we assume it's going to be up to a 10-year construction programme. Now, nuclear is worth something like just below 20% of our electricity at the moment. It is reliable. It doesn't depend on the wind blowing or the sun being out. And so realistically, as technology is at the moment, I think that's the nuclear plants are going to have to be replaced either with nuclear or with gas. At the same time, a lot of our coal stations are coming offline. So it's a real challenge.
So there is a real need, according to that argument, for Hinkley Point to be built.
There isn't actually. There's lots and lots of other things we could do. There's no need to replace nuclear with nuclear or indeed with gas. We've got so many more options, and by the time we get to the middle of the 20s, they're going to be an awful lot cheaper, much better bargain for Britain's bill payers. And what's interesting about Hinkley Point is it's managed to be 10 years late before it's even started, which is a record even for the nuclear industry. So we can't have any confidence anyway that they'll be able to do what they say they'll be able to do.
Because of the difficulties we're seeing faced by EDF and the huge expense involved in building a nuclear power station. It hasn't been one for 21 years. So perhaps we should rely on the future and new technology evolving.
Well, we say new technology. We first generated electricity from wind in 1887 and from solar photovoltaics in 1884. They flourished in the late years of the 19th century, early 20th century. A vast amount of research went in, and always we banged our head on the fact that they're not reliable, that we need the wind to be blowing or the sun to be out. And so they just collapsed in the 1920s after a huge amount of investment when reliable central grids came into play.
So nuclear would be more reliable, Tom Burke?
Well, not in recent experience. But the most pressure there's been on our supply margin over this winter has been when 2 of the existing nuclear reactors went offline unexpectedly. Actually, solar and wind, much more predictable. We know exactly when they're not going to work. What we're able to do with our electricity system now with modern informatics is actually manage the whole of the generation capacity we have much more efficiently and get more out of it. So what we're really looking at, and we look around the world, is a massive change going on in the way we design and run the energy system, of which big centralised generation capacity of any kind, especially not nuclear, is actually very much the past, not the future.
And what about the funding problems for Hinkley Point? An expert told the Today programme that EDF shares have crashed to half their value a year ago. The budget for Hinkley alone is bigger than EDF's entire market value. Oh,
the funding is a massive challenge within a competitive market. If you're doing it within a centrally controlled power system, then you get a rate of return of something like 5% on capital. Nuclear looks very good value. Within a competitive marketplace, nuclear is more risky economically because it's more expensive to build. You need a guaranteed price for a longer period of time than with gas turbines. That means people require a higher rate of return to manage that, and the thing starts looking expensive. I think in effect we're in real danger of paying private sector rates of returns to firms to carry out public sector policy, and I'm a long way from convinced that that's an efficient way of doing it with something as important as electricity.
So your view is it should be kind of nationalised in effect?
I think we have to. I mean, it is in effect. If anyone in government believes that this is just up to the market and if the lights go out people will just blame power companies, they're extremely naive from that point of view. So in effect it is government's job to keep the lights on. If that is the case, then I think there's an argument for government formally taking that responsibility and enjoying the benefits of gilt-edged investment instead of trying to make a market do something that, frankly, I don't think a market would choose to do on its own.
And are warnings about the lights going out warranted, Tom Burke?
Not really. The one person who's never issued a warning is the one person who would lose his job instantly if the lights did go out, and that's Steve Halliday, the man who runs National Grid. He's not been concerned at the level we've seen in the newspapers, who I think have exaggerated the problem enormously. The real problem for Hinkley getting the finance is because it's such a bad deal. So the French can't find the money to go ahead with it. That's EDF's problem in the face of the, in fact, enormous financial problems they're having. And that's one of the, I think, most likely reasons why there's a growing chance that actually it won't happen at all.
Tom Burke, Malcolm Grimston, thank you both.